Yeah. All right. So we're here with Trevor from Murray Mayhem, and tell us. So Trevor's got an interesting story because he was on the Murray 50 odd years ago, traveling up and down for work, and now he came back on the Tinny Rally. Brought his old neighbour as his teammate. Tell us why you used to be on the Murray, Trevor, and how you've come to be back here.
Yeah, so 50 years ago I was working for the NWS, now SA Water, and part of my role was to, when the was to look at whenever there was a new development application anywhere along the River Murray, canneries, wineries, dairies, piggeries, and then later on I'd come up and inspect the waste effluent being produced and where it was being sent to and what was happening to it, so it wasn't going back into the river. And then it was only just a couple of years after that I started doing that job that they introduced the houseboat waste treatment area, and they had the waste sites, disposal areas all along the river, and part of that legislation meant that any vessel over 6.5 metres had to have its own waste holding tank, so that it could pump out to those waste stations built all along the river. And so once a year I'd bring a team up from Adelaide with a vessel, with a boat, and we'd inspect every vessel over 6.5 metres to make sure it had a tank and the tank complied. And that was my role. And so we'd start off at the Victorian border and we'd then travel day by day all along the river. And whenever we saw a houseboat, whatever, we'd pull alongside and do the inspection and then continue on to the next one. And so I did that every year for about 6 years. We'd go all the way right down to Goolwa, and that was part of the government's plan to try and clean up the river. So the river is so important to South Australians because that is their water supply, whereas Victoria and New South Wales abused the river by using the water, pumping it straight back in, the salt. They really didn't care. Here there was salt basins, evaporation basins put in, so that after the blockies used the water, any excess could be pumped out of those evaporation basins, and it would take the salt out. And in those days, there was 52 truckloads of salt a day would come across the border into the South Australia. So the river was very, very badly polluted, and it's wonderful to come back and actually see a great improvement. But even today, New South Wales still has no legislation to fence off stock allowed into the river. The stock can still get right to the river, so there's erosion. Whereas you look on the Victorian side, where the reserve is in the entire length of the river in Victoria, beautiful, pristine. There's native trees and bushes and plants and reeds right to the riverbank. Whereas New South Wales, it's bare earth. And it's with the River Murray Basin People Committee, there has been no attempt, and the New South Wales government and federal government, there's been no attempt to fence off livestock from the river. And that's a great shame. Whereas when you get into South Australia and Victoria, they're actually caring for the river. And so it was just wonderful to come back and see, after 50 years of not being along the river, to come back and just view the whole thing. And Dan's done a fabulous job of putting it all together. The stops have been colossal. And places like Overland Corner, which I hadn't been to, I've stayed at a lot of pubs along the river, but not this one, to come back and visit the whole thing again.
How long did the trip used to take out when you?
It used to take about 3 days. We had twin 140 Evinrude motors on a I don't know what size it was, bigger than 4.5 metres, that's for sure. And I had being working for the government, I had a boat crew. I wasn't allowed to touch the boat even though I had a boat licence. And I had a land crew, and we'd just meet at Berry Pub. We'd start off then and would stay at Berry Pub overnight, then we'd go to the next one. And after the trip was finished, the boat crew and the land crew would sort of say, Trev, now, next year when you do it, make sure we're the ones, because we're really good at this job. They had a ball.
Everyone wanted to come back.
Yeah, everyone wanted to come back. Yeah, they had a ball. Yeah.
That was over 3 days, now you're doing it over 7.
Yes, yeah. So we used to motor along very quick. Yeah.
And how'd you come to do it with your teammate on this?
So Pete's my old neighbour, and Pete and I have been doing epic trips for 20 years now. We do 1 or 2 trips a year. And Pete texted me last year and said, he said, how about we do this trip, the Tinny Rally down the River Murray? And I texted straight back and said, yes, I'm in. And I could tell he nearly fell off his chair because he was absolutely amazed that I'd just said yes straight away without looking it up or knowing what was happening. Yeah, so we've done many, many trips throughout Australia, all out back. My wife doesn't do camping. She thinks she's camping if she's in 4-star accommodation. And my daughter is even worse. So Pete was the obvious choice. That's been good.
And why did you say yes straight away? What made you run?
Mainly partly for that nostalgic reason that, and I hadn't done the section obviously from Mildura to the South Australian border. The furthest I'd been up was Lake Victoria. I'd been up there because that is part of the South Australian government's water supply to top up the River Murray. So we'd been up that far, but it gave me a chance to do from Mildura to the border, plus all the have come back and look at the river again on this South Australian side.
Yeah, right. And the other trips, what sort of other trips have you been to?
So we've done Cape York a couple of times. We've done Torres Strait, all the islands through there. We did a barge trip from Darwin across to Groot Island on the back of a barge. I've done Horizontal Falls 3 or 4 times. I've done Cape Leveque, done Lake Eyre. We just pick an area and off we go.
Yeah. And how's this different or the same?
Well, this is very different. I mean, the camping is much the same, but being on the river is so different to being out in the dust, the corrugations. I mean, sure, it's like yesterday, it was fair few corrugations on the river with the wind blowing at 50 knots, but so much different to being on land. And it's wonderful, fantastic bird life, wonderful to see the old river red gums, and all the wildlife along the river. You don't get that. You get the skippies in outback trips and emus, but here it's just totally different.
And you've been camping or staying in hotels? Or?
Camping, yeah. So we did stay last night at the Big 4 Caravan Park at Loxton for a shower and a feed up at the pub at Loxton Pub, which was very nice. But no, we're campers. Pete's got a swag, I've got a small tent, and just boil a billy and have a bit of tucker. Yeah, it's good.
What
a bowl of red.
What boat did you bring?
So we hired a boat. I own a Tinny, but I wasn't prepared to haul it all the way down here, wheel bearings and motors and so on. It was much more cost effective for me to just pay Matt some money, and we've got the blue boat, the poly boat. Yeah. And it's gone like a dream. Even yesterday with such wild wind conditions in the river, we didn't miss a beat. Bit rough, but all part of the experience. Yeah. Character building.
And who does the Tinny Rally suit? Like, what sort of people do you think?
Well, I'm probably the oldest bloke on the Tinny Rally. I'm 76. I'll be 77 in 5 months' time. And I see most of the people that are on the rally in their 40s and 50s, and clearly that's. I mean, if you're prepared to do it, and you like camping, and you love the river, then go for it. Yeah, wonderful experience. And Dan, you've done such a fabulous job of organising it. It's organised, but it's not organised, and that's part of the beauty of it. It's not regimented. You don't have to get up 6 o'clock every morning and have your bags on the bus and so on. You just do what you want to do. As long as you make the locks, it's all fine.
Yes. Cool. Any other thoughts?
No, that's it.
Pleasure.
It's all good. All right.
Trevor.
Thank you very much, Dan, and thank you, Cam.
Yep.
Yeah.